Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a book that might just change how you think about, well, thinking itself. It's Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow, and it's all about the two systems running the show inside your head. To really get what this is all about, I've got a little puzzle for you. It's designed to show you how your mind works in real time. No tricks, I promise. Just go with your very first gut reaction. All right, listen to this description of a guy named Steve. He's very shy and withdrawn, invariably helpful, but with little interest in people or in the world of reality. A meek and tidy soul, he has a need for order and structure and a passion for detail. Okay, so based on that, what's your bet? Is he more likely to be a librarian or a farmer? Don't overthink it. What does your gut say?
Okay, so if librarian immediately popped into your head, you're not alone. In fact, that's what most of us think. The description of a meek, tidy soul, it just screams librarian, right? It fits our stereotype perfectly. But here's the catch. You probably ignored a huge piece of information. There are way more farmers in the world than male librarians. Your brain just took a shortcut. It went for the stereotype instead of the statistics.
And that little puzzle, it perfectly introduces the two main characters in your mind. That lightning-fast gut reaction that yelled librarian, that's your system one. It's automatic, intuitive, and emotional. But that other part of you, the one that might have paused and thought, hang on, what about the actual numbers of farmers versus librarians? That is your system two. Slow, effortful, and deliberate. So how do these two work together? Well, Kahneman uses this great analogy. Think of system one as this impulsive, creative lead actor, just constantly throwing out suggestions, ideas, feelings, you name it. And system two? It's like the powerful but very lazy director. Most of the time, system two just glances at what system one suggests and goes, yep, looks good to me, without making a single change.
And here's the thing. This setup is usually super efficient, which is great. But the problem is those fast shortcuts from system one, well, they can get us into a lot of trouble. They create these predictable mistakes in our thinking, what psychologists call biases. Let's look at a couple of the really big ones. First up, we've got something called the anchoring effect. Basically, whatever number you hear first, even if it's totally random, sticks in your brain and influences any guesses you make after that. It acts like an anchor. For example, let me ask you this. Was Gandhi more or less than 114 years old when he died? Now, take a second and guess his actual age at death. Got a number? The real answer is 78. But I bet your guess was way higher than it would have been otherwise, right? That completely absurd 114 anchored your guess. That's the effect in action.
All right, next is a bias that basically rules our financial decisions and a lot of our emotional life too. It's called loss aversion, and it's really simple. Losing hurts way more than winning feels good.
And we're not talking just a little bit more. The research shows that the pain of a loss is psychologically about twice as powerful as the pleasure of an equivalent gain. That's why losing $100 feels absolutely awful, while finding $100 is just kind of nice.
And this isn't just for us regular folks, it even gets the pros. Get this, researchers analyzed millions of golf putts and found that pro golfers are better at sinking a putt to save par, which is about avoiding a loss, than they are at sinking a putt for a birdie, which is securing a gain. That little mental quirk, that fear of losing, literally cost them millions of dollars. Okay, so you're probably wondering, if system one is so flawed, why doesn't our smart, logical system two just step in and fix things? Well, the simple answer is because system two is lazy. Kahneman calls it the lazy controller. Thinking hard actually burns calories. It's a real effort, and our brains are wired to save energy. There's this fantastic experiment that shows this perfectly. It's called ego depletion. Imagine this. You walk into a lab and it smells like fresh-baked chocolate chip cookies. Amazing, right? Now, one group of people gets to eat the cookies, but you're in the other group. You're given a plate of radishes and told to eat those instead, while the cookie smell just taunts you. The willpower it takes to resist those cookies is huge. Afterwards, both groups were given a really difficult puzzle. And guess what? The radish eaters, the ones who had to use up all their self-control,
They gave up on the puzzle way, way faster. And, this isn't just a metaphor about mental energy. It's biological. When you do something hard, like resisting a cookie or solving a puzzle, your brain is literally burning through glucose. It's real fuel. When you're low on that fuel, your system 2 just doesn't have the energy to step up. This whole thing gets even weirder when you start looking at how we remember things, especially our own happiness. Kahneman says we have 2 different selves making these judgments. First, you've got the experiencing self. It lives completely in the now. It's the part of you asking, does this feel good? Does this hurt? Right this second. But then you've got the remembering self. This is the storyteller. It looks back on an experience later and asks, so, how was it, on the whole? The catch is, these 2 selves are often telling very different stories. And the problem is, the remembering self is a really bad historian. It doesn't care about the whole experience. It basically just focuses on 2 things: the most intense moment, the peak, and how it all ended. The total length of the experience, it pretty much ignores it. This is why a beautiful, hour-long symphony can be completely ruined by a loud, ugly scratch from the record right at the very end. Your experiencing self had a great time for an hour, but the memory, the story your remembering self tells, it's all about that terrible ending. So after hearing all this, you might be feeling a bit, flawed, hopelessly irrational. But don't worry, we're not. The goal isn't to shut down System 1. We'd be paralyzed without it. The trick is to get better at spotting the situations where System 1 is likely to mess up, so we can consciously wake up our lazy System 2. So what can you actually do? First, just slow down. Especially when the stakes are high. Give System 2 a fighting chance. If you feel that pull of an anchor, that initial number, actively argue against it in your own head. Come up with reasons why it's wrong. To fight that powerful fear of losing, try to think like a trader. Zoom out and look at the big picture, not just this one little loss. And maybe be a little more skeptical of expert intuition, especially in areas that are super unpredictable, like picking stocks. And this leads us to one final huge challenge, which this quote sums up perfectly: hindsight bias. You know how it is. After something happens, it all seems so obvious. We look back, we connect the dots, and we think, of course that was going to happen. We forget that back then, the story was written in invisible ink. Thinking Fast and Slow is really a manual for understanding our own minds, how they create these neat, tidy stories that make the world seem way more predictable than it actually is. And it leaves us with a huge question. Can we learn to embrace uncertainty and still think clearly?